Top five.
Yeah, girl, you ready to do this? You ready to count this thing down? We're doing the top 5, her. Yeah, let's set it off with 1, 2, 3, 4,
Forgot about your sound effects. So nice.
I can't. Oh, I love it. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Ranked Top 5 List of Stuff That Don't Matter. I'm your host, Tuong La, and I have a very exciting crew with me today. A reunion of sorts. It's been so long, guys.
Should
we hold hands?
Okay, let's hold hands.
Okay, reach.
On this audio medium, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
We'll paint a picture.
I could have just moved
the
the
first
mic back.
hand that I was trying to reach towards is someone that I'm very excited to be on the cast. She hasn't been here for like over a year.
Oh, yeah,
It's been a hot minute. The elusive, the sensational, the super Sarah Finn.
Oh, thanks.
Sawa.
Sawa.
Do you know actually when I get mail from the GCTC, our former workplace, it does say Sawa Finn.
Sawa?
It's
Sawa
always
Finn.
going to be that
Sawa
way.
Finn, please subscribe. Sawa
Yeah.
Finn.
I don't think I
Please
do
send
anything
us money.
Donate.
Sawa.
I love it. Sarah, thank you for being on the cast. We're so happy to have you. It's so hard to lock you down, but here you are. It's like seeing a Yeti.
Oh, thanks so much, Tuong.
welcome.
I
In a
was,
good way.
I'm always so happy when I open up my phone and I see a text from you, let alone that I get to spend time with you. And,
Yes.
and my fellow friends here. And yeah, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Now, can you introduce the guest beside you?
Beside me, talk about being lucky to get to see this like magnificent human being that exists on this planet Earth.
I'm so uncomfortable.
Look at us learning to receive compliments a day at a time, Catherine. We got this. Is my dear friend and someone who is so brilliant, so talented, just such a wonderful.
And now they're holding hands because you guys don't know.
I'm
She's
so
back to being
grateful to know this
uncomfortable.
beautiful person, Catherine Ballachey.
Catherine.
That was too much.
That was really
I'm
nice.
just being honest.
Aw.
Speaking my truth.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. That was
Podcavern
very
regular,
sweet.
Podcavern original here, Catherine Ballachey, who's moving away from
An OG.
Ottawa.
Skype exists for a reason.
I know,
Don't worry.
It's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
that's happened.
It's
Or
true.
Zoom or whatever
Yeah,
people
you'll
use
invest in
these days.
Zoom.
Carrier
The jury is out
pigeon.
on
What else
Zoom.
what else do people use? Dial up.
Yeah.
What's that one with the you just press about buttons and it's like code?
Oh, like
Morse
S-
code.
I was like SOS. What?
Like a telegraph.
What's
a
that?
telegraph.
Telegraph.
Yeah.
Walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
Well, there's ways to contact Catherine. Catherine, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I think this is maybe podcast number 6 or 7. I
6 or
forget.
7. No, way more. It has to be
More?
way more. Has to
I
be
don't
way more.
know. Something like that. It all started
She's
with the
lost
dogs.
The
That was
dogs.
good.
Doges.
Top dog, top five
Fictional.
dogs.
Top 5 fictional dogs.
Catherine, can you introduce the big dog in front of you? That's a compliment, by the way.
way. You know what? My greatest compliment that I can give this gentleman is that I trust him with my dogs. He is one of the greatest dog sitters and human beings ever.
Oh, you
He
know.
has a booming baritone voice. I assume it's baritone. I don't know these
Sure.
things. Sure. Everybody, give it up for Axandre Lemours.
Hello.
Alexandra.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for being on the cast.
Oh, you know, I do what I can.
Yeah, even though you secretly hate me.
Yes, absolutely.
But you know what?
Oh, it's
It's a secret that you hate me, but
anymore.
underneath that, we know that you love me
Yes.
so very much.
It's a very
in fact, this is
complicated
actually
relationship.
probably the most positive podcast crew that I've had together in so long.
glad.
I hope we don't scream at each other like the last two.
Time will only tell.
It's funny, the last 2 podcasts I recorded, it's like, no, so nice to see you, so nice to see you. And then 10 minutes later, fuck you! I don't know if that'll happen here today. Guys, we are at a table of interesting people. We are probably the most interesting people. But, you know, we want
Great segue,
to
great segue.
celebrate other interesting people. Maybe interesting people that you don't know about. That's what we're here to discuss today. Top 5 interesting people you never heard about. Now, we have ground rules, of course, that we have to set for the people. What do we think is a good ground rule? Obviously, someone that you don't know.
A real existing person, I would say.
Yes.
It can't be a fictional
No
person.
fictional.
Oh, okay.
Like a historical person, I would say. Like they lived as a human.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Or currently still.
do
Or,
that.
or currently
Oh, yeah,
still alive.
still alive,
Yeah,
yes,
or still
yeah.
alive. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So
Alive or dead?
I forgot about the whole that you don't know part. So a couple of my nominations are very light.
That's cool. Hey.
We'll see. We'll see how it
May
goes.
not make it to the top five.
That's right. That's
Right? Yeah.
I think that's what the discussion might be about. Are we gonna vote for people who are more interesting or people that we don't know?
I think it's
That's
it's kind of
the thing.
What a
two
great
things,
question.
right?
That's a great question. I think
A
it's a
little bit of both?
combination of both. And I
Right.
think like the amount, like people may, I've heard of this person before.
But you haven't
but
heard
if
of what
to
they've
the
done.
greater, I don't know, world audience,
Right.
like do most people know who this person is? As long as
Yeah.
they're interesting,
Yes.
I think they pass.
Unfortunately.
Now, if you nominate someone who's just like, I don't know, Chris Pratt's real cool, then I don't. No.
We'll ask you to leave.
I mean, one of my nominations is a Chris, but I mean,
I hope it's none of like the
It's
main
not-
Chris's
it's
or
not
something.
Chris Pratt.
That's pretty,
Columbus?
that's pretty basic. X.
You heard of him?
you know Columbus, right?
So we're trying
Good
to pull
old
from
Chris.
like really like kind of yeah. And I assume if we had a different group of people here today, it'd be like a completely different list. So it'd be hard to
yeah.
argue it possibly.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We'll
There are
find out.
interesting things about the people I'm nominating.
Okay.
that
I
people
would
might
say
not
like
know.
sell it. I would say
Sell
rather
it, yeah.
sell it.
Yeah, that
like
too.
convince us. You know, like I'm open to anything. Really.
I'm open to like
ABC, right?
if you say the name of
Always
some,
be closing.
Always be close.
Yeah.
if you say the
Got that
name
from
of
Kenneth.
somebody and all of us are like, no,
got it
too many
from a
people
movie.
know this person, then I would suggest that you get to renominate someone right off the get-go. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Aye,
Oh, and
aye,
I would
aye.
say if it's someone that like two people have written down, then that obviously is we all know them. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
like, oh, I had them too. Then
Unless
it's
you like research the same thing. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
let's be
okay,
honest
that's
here.
true.
We all
Right.
Googled and Wikipedia all our answers.
oh, like
here.
crazy.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I'm just like
I'm
interesting
exhausted.
people.
people I
Interesting
don't know.
people that nobody knows about.
And we're gonna
Did
go
you
ahead
not-
and say, I didn't write the essay for any of this stuff. It's
You didn't
all
write any
pulled from
essays?
No, I just
Shit.
it's really messy how I organize this.
Yeah,
I'm
me
not
too.
sure how this is gonna work.
I have Wikipedia pages saved on my phone, so we'll see how this goes.
I copy pasted and it copy pasted weird, so we'll see how it goes.
I diligently
plagiarized?
hand wrote everything
Whoa.
down.
Yes.
So like
Let me tell you,
I'm
people. Sarah
prepped.
has
Sarah
a
the
notebook.
overachiever.
She has a MacBook. She has a pop and a tea.
He is prepared.
She's prepared. I got nothing. So
How else do you go through life? Too much stuff. Too much. Too much.
I think that's good, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get
Yeah,
ranking,
let's
people.
get into
Just
it.
like every episode of Rank, we're each going to go around the table 3 times, nominating 3 nominations each, making a master list of 12, and whittling that down to a top 5 list. I'm seeing Sarah worried and flipping her page frantically. It's okay. I'll go first. Sarah, you'll go second. So
You have some time.
we got some time. We got some time. Whew. It's been a while since you've been on a cast. I can't
Been a
stay-
while.
Over a
It's
year.
been a while.
So
It's been over a year.
elusive.
My first nomination is the first person I thought of when I thought of this topic. And also shout out to a friend, Justin Godley, who came up with this topic, and I didn't invite him on this podcast.
Well.
Sorry, buddy. He just had a baby, so he has no time for
Thanks,
podcasting.
Justin.
Thanks, Justin. We're going to take your idea and make it better. By nominating this first person here, former pirate, female pirate, in fact, from China.
shit.
Her name is Ching Xing, or Ching Shi, sorry. And I assume nobody knows who this
She's
is.
in my
No.
honorable mentions.
She's in your honorable mentions?
No
Okay.
way.
I will.
way.
I'll give you the cliff notes of her because there's so much that we can.
She's a
talk.
badass.
She's a badass. She's in the 19th century. Former prostitute from a floating brothel in the city of Canton. Was wed to Chang, a fearsome pirate who operated in the South China Sea in the Qing Dynasty. What happened was her husband died, and she kind of took over, but in like a better way, I suppose. Like she commanded a huge legion of pirate ships and people. Let's see here. We have. She succeeded him and commanded over 1,800 pirate ships and an estimated 80,000 men. In comparison, the famed Blackbeard commanded 4 ships and 300 pirates
What?
within the
What?
same country.
Then why don't we? Why do we
wild.
always hear about Blackbird and not?
Yeah, I know, because it's a woman.
Blackbeard, rather, not
and
Blackbird.
Apparently, she basically turned like her former prostitution job and used that as leverage and was able to like play the game way better as a pirate.
Whoa.
Of course.
And then she just became like this complete domination force. So pretty crazy stuff.
I think I'm in love with this woman. That sounds incredible. Holy
She is
crap.
widely considered to be the most successful pirate in history based on the fact she commanded the largest crew ever assembled. And here's one thing, and that she died in her own bed as a free woman. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then apparently there's she's been kind of like represented in movies and video games in some capacity. I'm not sure if they ever use her name, but in like Pirates of the Caribbean, there's like an Asian woman pirate who's one of the, I don't know, 9 pirate lords.
Yes, that.
Terrible movie. but she's like, that's like supposed to be a representation of her. So yeah, she's super badass. And yeah.
Wow.
I shouldn't
Pirates.
be helping you sell this person.
Yeah, go ahead.
But the government failed to take her fleet down multiple times. Eventually, she sought amnesty, so they just asked her to stop in exchange for granting her and her crew amnesty and her keeping all of her loot. So
Whoa, so that's how she was able to like live her life as a free woman.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
that point.
she
like
did it
brokered a
herself.
deal.
She did it herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. She retired at
Wow.
35, opened a gambling house, and died 3 decades later.
What am I doing with
She's
my
living
life?
the dream.
Let's all be pirates. So what we'll do is we'll try to we'll say the name of the person, and then in brackets when we're kind of ranking them later, we can kind of have like a Cliff Notes idea of what it is.
Yeah,
We'll
I
just
put
say
The
like
pirate
I put
queen.
19th
Pirate
century
queen.
lady
Pirate-
pirate. Yeah.
Pirate Queen.
Pirate
There you
queen.
go. Chingshi. All right, Sarah, what do you got?
Okay, so the first person that I am going to nominate is this amazing man named Hang Nor. So Hang Nor was a physician from Cambodia, and he was a surgeon and a gynecologist actually there, and he was working in Phnom Penh, which is the capital of Cambodia, when the Khmer Rouge came in and completely... just destroyed that entire country as well as their own populace. So if you know anything about that whole regime, that if you were anyone that was educated or even quasi resembled someone that maybe had some education, you were immediately tortured or killed. And so Hang was put into a concentration camp along with his wife, and his wife was actually pregnant, but he wasn't able to help her give birth, and so she passed away in the concentration camps, and because otherwise it would have completely given away him, it would have given away her, it would have given away the baby, and so anyway they gambled. So eventually the Khmer Rouge collapses. He is able to escape to Thailand, where he works again as a doctor for a year before he then gets to America, where have you heard of him? You're looking like you quasi know.
I'm very interested.
Okay, where he's then 4 years later after he's in the States, he then is in the movie called The Killing Fields, which is all about the Khmer Rouge. He's never acted before. He is the first. He's definitely the only Asian actor to win Best Supporting Actor, and he's one of 2 either Asian actors or actors period to actually win an Academy Award for their debut performance, an Academy Award in Best Supporting Actor.
Wow.
So this is, and like he wasn't going to do the movie, but like then he met with the right people, and anyway, so it was sort of like a full.
That's awesome.
And it was so and all that to say, so this whole crazy thing happens. He does a couple of more gigs, and then tragically he is then murdered outside of his apartment in 1996 in Los Angeles, and it's just this extraordinary life, this extraordinary, like up, down, all around. What a really way to put it, Sarah. But anyway, when I read about him, I just thought that was a pretty interesting
So was
and
he like
extraordinary
targeted,
story.
murdered, or who's just
Actually,
murdered?
from what I could read
Yeah.
about it, it seems like he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was gangs that were
Just fighting.
yeah,
and
that
he
were
just caught in the
Robert.
crossfire.
Oh,
That's
wow,
just
that
it. So,
sucks.
but just like what a tragic story, what an
Yeah, it's
amazing story.
ridiculous.
Like he was able to sort of redeem the Cambodian people by like telling this story in the movie, and and then that's that. So he's my first nomination.
Can I just say, Sarah, you did so much research that you're able to do that with barely looking at your book, and here I am with my phone being like, okay, what paragraph am I on? That's an incredible amount of research. That's dedication.
He's an
and
amazing
that's
guy.
good. How do we want to classify this man here?
I put Cambodian doctor and / movie star.
Perfect. That's
yes.
what his own
Yeah.
biography sort of
Yeah.
introduces him
Doctor
as.
and movie star. Excellent. Hang Nor, right?
Hang Nor.
All right. Catherine.
Ooh, that's a tough one to follow.
I'm not joking around here.
So I will acknowledge that all of my nominations are women because I find, of course, women often are either written out or underwritten in history. So I love like researching kind of the women behind famous men or like that sort of thing. The classic example I give is The Imitation Game, that movie.
Yeah.
Keira Knightley's character actually represents an entire group of like 8 women who are just all combined into one character.
Oh, really?
So frustrating. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Bletchley Circle, look them up. Anyways, so who am I going to start with? Okay.
So many to choose from.
You know how famous artists often die impoverished and unknown, and we wonder how they actually became famous, how their image actually became so known if they died in this way, right? The example I'm going to give is Vincent van Gogh, right? Or Van Gogh.
Whatever.
Van Gogh, they say
Van
in
Gogh.
Holland, right? So he died impoverished, completely unknown, and he has a pretty classic story. And his paintings are everywhere these days. Those friggin' sunflowers, like we all know them. And it is because of his sister-in-law, Joanna van Gogh. So
Joanna Van Gogh.
was married to his brother. And essentially, his brother and him, what was his brother's name? Shit. I have it all pulled up here. But they were
Doesn't matter.
best friends. They died within 6 months of each other. Because Vincent van Gogh, he suffers a gunshot wound or whatever that everyone seems to think was perhaps self-inflicted, and then his brother was so depressed, died 6 months later. On his deathbed, he made his wife promise him to continue Vincent's legacy. So here's Joanna, who went by Jo, was left with a baby son, no money, and essentially just hundreds of these paintings, and she's like, what am I gonna do with this? This is how I need to make my way in the world. And you know what? I promised my husband that I would do this for him and I would do it for my brother-in-law. So here I go. So they were in Paris. So when all this happened, so she goes back and she moves back to Holland. And she had the opportunity at one point just to straight up sell all the paintings and take the money and move on. And she was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. My brother-in-law deserves this. I'm going to work my ass off and I'm going to dedicate my entire life to actually marketing his work, making sure it gets in these specific galleries and actually holding on to some of it and building this whole Vincent van Gogh foundation that she lived until the 60s or so and dedicated her whole life to doing this, her by herself as a single woman and with a child in tow, and essentially built his entire legacy to how we know him today.
She built him up in a way.
She built him up, yeah. And because really it was her only choice at the time, but then she was like, you know what, I actually believe in this, because she had the opportunity to cash out, right? And just be like, whatever, I'm going to sell this off to whoever and they'll deal with it. But no, she held on to it and she was like, I'm going to actually do him the service that he deserves. And built this whole, what is he called? A post-impressionist kind of thing, right? That's what he spearheaded, but it was all posthumously, right? It was all after he died and all her work.
Wow.
And did you ever hear about Joanna van Gogh? No. It's all about Vincent van Gogh, but she was the one that made him famous.
Wow.
And made him
I like this
who he is today.
nomination.
Yeah.
Love it.
She's fascinating. And a lot of the thing is, if you studied any art history, you might have heard her name because she was a really huge marketer and kind of used her skills in that way.
Right.
But I'd really only heard of him, so I kind of looked it up and was like, who is this woman? And why did she do that?
Yeah.
Why did she believe so strongly? But it was really that promise she made to her husband on his deathbed, right?
That's nice.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Nice and then mind-blowing. And then
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
Joanna van Gogh.
Joanna
we'll say,
van Gogh, yeah.
How do we want to...
Vincent's sister-in-law.
Vinny's sister-in-law?
Vinny's sister-in-law. Yeah.
Sister-in-law.
Wow. That's,
She's a fascinating woman.
Good pitch.
Cool.
Good pitch,
Yeah,
Catherine.
well
Wow.
done.
Also,
Solid.
barely looked at her notes. Just went for it. Man,
I think I might have missed a few key things. I was kind of scanning as I was going, but look, there's a cute little picture of her and her son. Aww. Anyways, yeah.
Axe.
Yes.
Give it to me.
Okay, so I figure. Oh no, I'm gonna nerd out first, and then
Yeah, nerd it.
You're in good company, don't worry.
get my heavy ones out of the way later. So Niki Lauda is one of the most famous Formula One drivers in history. He was born in Austria. He decided to become a Formula One driver. That was his dream since he was a kid, even though his parents disapproved of it. And they were like regular office people. I think they worked at like a paper manufacturing factory. So essentially, he makes his way through like the smaller championships, like Formula 2, Formula V, all that stuff, and eventually gets to drive for Ferrari, McLaren, couple other companies, but Ferrari and McLaren are still the two most successful companies in Formula One. He won the championship in 1975. I think that was like his biggest win. And then in 1976, which is the interesting part, he suffered a crash at the German Grand Prix. He fucked up a turn, or a turn screwed him up. He collided into a wall. The car burst into flames. He inhaled a bunch of toxic fumes and almost burned to death.
Whoa.
Yeah.
God.
The worst part is that a week before the race, he had called on his fellow competitors to boycott the race because the German Grand Prix takes place on the track at Nürburgring, which is still the longest track in the world at around 23 kilometers. Back in 1976, it was actually 4 kilometers longer. And he was citing safety concerns, like a lack of safety of safety management for this big a track. So he was talking to all of his fellow racers and saying, no, let's not do this. This is stupid long and they're not managing it properly. And he was known for being like cold, calculating, and kind of knowing his shit. So the irony is there, and he almost inhaled all of it. The crazy part about Niki is that 6 weeks later, he was back on the track after suffering third-degree burns to like most of his body. Like you see pictures of him now, he has no hair. There's a bunch of scarring, and yeah, so he was really determined to go back to the track. He only missed 2 races. He goes back to race in I believe it was Monaco. It might have been a different race, but essentially he came after this crash. He came within a single point of winning that year, of winning the entire championship, despite
that crazy thing.
Almost getting killed. He lost by a single point to his famous rival James Hunt, who was a British racer. All of that is pretty well, documented, I guess, not sensationalized, documented in the movie Rush. Ron Howard directed it and came out, I think, in 2013.
With Chrissy Hem.
Yeah. Daniel Bruhl played Chrissy Hem. Daniel Bruhl played Lauda really well, and then Chris Hemsworth played James Hunt, and it chronicles like their rivalry. Oh, also, so in 1976, Lauda loses the championship to Hunt. 1977, he wins. And then he wins again in 1984. And then he retired around 1979, came out of retirement to race again, won in 1984. And then retired again. He's also not an aircraft engineer, like an airline engineer. He founded 3 airlines, one of which is still active.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done.
Right?
Yeah, he's done
some crazy stuff.
Quite a bit. An entrepreneur, sorry, not an engineer. He died this past May at the age of 70.
Wow.
Yeah, he was 70. His helmet is on display at the Ferrari Museum in Italy. And my last note is watch Rush. It's really good.
Chrissy Hem.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. So his name's Niki Lauda.
Yeah.
And we can say what? NASCAR?
F1.
Or F1? Sorry.
Formula One.
F1. I'm sorry. I don't know cars.
NASCAR's different.
Hot Wheels?
Is it?
It is, I swear. There's more turns.
So F1, how else do you want to describe him? Just so we can get like more to that, I suppose. F1.
Famous F1 driver.
The third-degree burns and
Yeah.
got back on the track 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. I will say F1.
Entrepreneur.
Cheated death.
Yeah, essentially, yes. He cheated death and then decided to do it again.
Wow.
Because F1 was really unsafe at the time, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And
That's
he knew it,
great.
yeah.
That's an incredible round 1, everyone. So we're going to round 2.
For real, how are we going to rank all this shit?
Yeah, this is going to be hard.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if we'll scream at each other about this. Fuck you guys. Pirates are so cool. I'm going to go off yours, Axe. I mean, like someone who cheated death is someone who I want to go with. I didn't think I'd nominate this person, but I'm kind of inspired by your nomination here. Cheated death many times.
Love it.
Many times until he eventually died. But let me tell you, his name is Michael Malloy. Have you heard of Michael Malloy?
No.
Also known as Mike the Durable or Iron Mike.
I know the name
let me
Iron Mike,
preface
that's
this.
it.
Yeah. A former firefighter, he is most famous for surviving a number of murder attempts on his life by 5 acquaintances who are attempting to commit homicide and life insurance fraud. Essentially what happened was like Mike was seen at the bar, like at this bar many times, and they're like, this guy's a drunk. He's just kind of like, we can get away with this. We can find a way to cash in on life insurance. Because like I think one of the guys that were in on this has done it before. They like got like a girlfriend, I think it is, to sign him as like a beneficiary or whatever, and then she mysteriously died like 6 months later or whatever it is, and he cashed in on
This
that.
sounds
Sounds
like,
like Tom
So
sounds familiar.
is this your nomination, Michael?
No. GCTC did a play last.
Sounds like the Drowning Girls.
Yeah.
Okay. Based on this guy, no.
Which was wonderful.
Basically, so what happened was one of the guys, I think, at the bar gave him an unlimited credit of drinking alcohol. So they basically want to alcohol poison him. They thought he would abuse that and drink himself to death. That's how much this guy drank. Malloy drank for a majority of his waking day, and it did not kill him. So what they did was they replaced the liquor with antifreeze. But Malloy would continue to drink it with no problems. The antifreeze was replaced with something called turpentine, followed by horse liniment, and finally rat poison.
And nothing killed him?
And that didn't kill him. And then what ended up, and then he just kept coming back. So the story
Did
is
he die
like,
in his sleep
he
or
just kept
something?
drinking. He drank the stuff, and then he's just like, give me another. He just kept asking for more, even though they replaced it with not like real alcohol. And then
Turpentine.
So then they did. The group then gave Malloy raw oysters soaked in wood alcohol, with the idea, like just trying to kill him that way.
Yeah.
Because one of the people they claimed he saw a man die after eating oysters with whiskey. So they're like, let's use wood alcohol. So that didn't work either. So they did that for several, I think, weeks or months. And then they tried a sandwich of spoiled sardines mixed with poison and carpet tacks. And he also survived that.
What the hell?
Like, is he going to the hospital at all in between
No,
this, or just
and
having a nap
at this point,
and then getting back?
Yeah. Basically, he would pass out, and like, there's a couple instances where he'd pass out, and they're like, "Okay, he's dead," and then he'd be like, and then you would see him at the bar the next day.
Asking for more.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see. He was sometimes he was like passed out, carried to a park, dumped in the snow, had 5 U.S. gallons of water poured on his bare chest, but he would appear the day after for another drink. So he just kept coming back.
Oh
He wouldn't freeze it up either.
And there's still another instance here. The group then attempted to kill Malloy by running him down with a green taxi, moving at 45 miles per hour. That's 72 kilometers.
Oh my God.
This put Malloy, and the way that it would happen apparently was like they were chasing him down. He's like, oh shit, and he starts running away, but he's drunk. And they run him down, and just to make sure, they run backwards on him. And then like they're like, oh shit, there's another car coming. So that car runs away, and they're like, okay, he must be dead. And then Malloy is in the hospital, I think, for just 3 weeks with broken bones, and so the group presumed he was dead. And then he appears at the bar 3 weeks later. He's like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Wow.
Crazy thing happened.
It's crazy.
I'm all right. Yeah.
And then finally, he eventually died, and the way he died was they eventually had to put a hose in his mouth connected to a gas jet, and they turned it on, and that killed him within an hour. So he was pronounced dead of lobar pneumonia. And he was quickly buried. But then the crazy thing is they did an investigation because they're like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of weird. So they did some talking, and then eventually they found the 5 men responsible for it. And first of all, they only were able to claim like very little amounts of money, like $800 or something like that. Like, so it wasn't even worth it to begin with. But they found these 5 men, put them on trial. One of the people was held an accessory after the fact with a $10,000 bail, but the other guys were sentenced to death and executed in an electric chair, and they died right away.
Oh,
So yeah, Very
The
satisfying.
irony.
Yeah, very satisfying.
Eat it.
But it's just like this guy who
That is a
just
crazy
would
story.
not die.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so I thought it was really cool.
And where was that,
Zombie
sorry?
I'll have to check. I think he was Irish, but I could be wrong. So I'll double check on that. But yeah.
That sounds very Irish. Michael.
Yeah.
Michael Malloy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Lawyer Mike.
He was an Irish man who lived in New York. So New
There
York
you
City,
go.
yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So
And
they
he was
just
he
weren't
was a
ready
homeless
for
man too.
this
so
Irish
this was
man.
the whole thing. Yeah.
That is an incredible story.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Sarah, what do you got?
Okay. My next nomination is this English woman named Mary Anning. Have any of you guys heard of this amazing lady? So, how do I describe Mary? So Mary was super poor growing up. Oh, I'll start this whole thing with when she was 15 months old. She was the only person to survive a lightning strike. She was underneath a tree, and I think there was at least 3 or 4 other people, and she was the only one to survive it. And from then on, her parents were like, "That's where you get all your smarts from. Like that's why you're so smart." So
I got hit by lightning as a baby.
So I wanted to make that point that like nurture over nature can sometimes really help everyone succeed in life. So let's all be nice to each other and encourage each other. Okay.
Great.
So all that to say is that she grew up super poor. Her dad died when she was 11, and so for her and her brother, for them to make ends meet, because they could her mom could no longer afford to send them to school, they'd go around. They grew up in this place called Lyme Regis in England, which is a big coastal city, and they would go digging for what were then known as curiosities, what we would now call fossils. And so they would collect all these fossils and they would sell them to tourists or locals. And then eventually, like the science of paleontology wasn't yet a thing, but eventually scientists were like, "Hey, what are these neat little things?" And they would buy them from these kids. And then eventually these crazy kids were the first to find a complete skeleton of this. I don't know if it's considered a dinosaur, but it's this thing called, how's this gonna go?
We believe in you.
Ichthyosaur?
Let's say yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
an
It's true.
ichthyosaur, which is like this massive thing that we would now sort of consider a close relation to, and I'm just making, I'm not sure if you would call them related but anyway,
Sure. Yeah.
they sort of look like dolphins or porpoises, but it would grow up to like 20 feet long. It was massive. So these two little kids found this thing, and eventually the brother went on and he was like, "I'm going to go be an upholsterer, see you later." And she was like, "No, I'm going to stick with this." And so she eventually found all these incredible things. Like she found another one of those skeletons, and at 24 she found this thing called a Plesiosaurus skeleton,
Oh man.
which is a big dinosaur too.
Yeah.
I can't remember now. Oh yeah, it's like one of those like
Yeah,
anyway,
I know-
underwater.
I know that name.
I just for
Only
the
you
audience
see
at home,
me now.
Sarah is kind of doing the weird wave.
It's a porpoise.
That's me acting like a dinosaur, okay? And
Like a Nessie
they found this
kinda
complete
situation,
dinosaur, and then she eventually found this this other huge. Oh, you know, there's a big dinosaur exhibit right now at the Museum of Nature. I think they're called petrosaurs. They're like part of the
Pterosaur.
Like a pterodactyl.
They're like a
Yeah,
pterodactyl.
yeah.
Like the
She
birds.
found a complete skeleton of that too.
my God.
She's just like she's so young. She's like 24. What are all these women doing before the age of 30?
Yeah.
They don't have TV. They're not getting. Yeah.
They have nothing better to do.
Exactly.
Either
expand
that or
their
embroidery.
minds.
Yeah, they're more focused.
But it was because of all of her findings. She also found things like ink bags and what were then like creatures that would have been what we would think of as today's like squids and cuttlefish. And so they didn't even know that these things had ink bags and then she would sell the ink and people could put it in their pens. Like it was this whole. She found like fossilized feces, which actually helped scientists at the time determine like what certain dinosaurs had eaten. They didn't know. Anyway, she just totally like ushered in this whole like science of paleontology and
so cool.
As
and
an uneducated young woman.
That's
really.
just it, who, like, just-
quote unquote uneducated.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
more
just-
educated than anyone else around.
Yeah.
That's just it. Oh, and so anyway, and I think part of what's interesting about her is that they would take all of her findings, these other scientists, and then they would publish these findings, but she never got any of the credit. Like they would just sort of talk and.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I'm sure there's way more information that I have not written down or remembering, but I think this lady is super interesting and super cool. And
like
Mary
it.
Anning, this amazing,
Anning.
yeah, like.
Wow. Mary Anning.
Yeah.
Lightning paleontologist is what.
Lightning paleontologist.
That's awesome.
I love that.
That's really cool.
Okay.
I like this
Bring that
topic.
down.
This topic's
Yeah,
fun.
this is
Great.
fun.
Yeah.
Catherine, what do you have?
Okay, so Mine, again, might be kind of known because I've been doing a lot of research about her because I've been wanting to write a play about her. And my most recent research, I discovered they did a drunk history about her. So maybe she is a bit more known.
What's her name?
Rose Valland.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, great.
No clue.
It
Great.
counts.
Okay, fabulous. So Tiffany Haddish did a drunk history about her.
I love her.
All about, right?
She has
All
a new
about
series,
like,
it's great. Anyway, keep going.
essentially there's a whole drunk history series on International Women's Day about like women underwritten in history. So I was like, haha, cha-ching.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
But so this woman, she was at the Jeu de Paume Museum in Paris when it was occupied by Nazis. So she was a French woman, Rose Valland, obviously, and she was essentially just an assistant curator at this museum. And when the Nazis came in, she pretty much just stuck around at this museum day after day for about 4 years. For however long the Nazis were there, 4 or 5 years.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Every friggin' day she showed up. Because essentially, she promised the curator that she would protect all the works of art. So I don't know if you know this, but Nazis, as when they were going through Europe, they actually stole a lot of art.
Oh, yeah.
And destroyed a lot of art because Hitler was a failed artist, essentially.
Yes.
So he was like, any art that I don't like or I don't approve of or doesn't meet my like German, Aryan standards needs to be destroyed or looted or whatever. But he also had this assistant dude. Oh no, I'm blanking on his name. I had it written down somewhere. That instead of what was his name?
Can I just say controversial? Maybe controversial. Fuck Hitler. You can go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Nazis are bad.
Yep.
But he had, I forget his name. Oh no. Well, anyways, he had this assistant dude that he was like, sure, Hitler, I'll destroy all that art, and kind of like hid it away, right? Because he was like, I'm gonna make so much money, like amazing. So what Rose did is
So
she
he's one of
would.
the nicer Nazis. Is what you're saying.
I mean, he sold stolen art.
His whole plan was to like make a fortune off it. But anyways,
I missed that part.
he didn't destroy it right away. So what Rose did is that she showed up at the museum every day and recorded every single thing that they were doing because she would pretend that she didn't speak German, but she did. So she'd show up and she'd be like, je ne sais pas ce que tu dis. And would like just like pretend to like dust things and like water the plants and stuff. And secretly she was recording everything that they were doing, everywhere that the art was going and everything. So then when the Americans came in and liberated, so this is when you hear about the Monuments Men. So there was a movie, a Matt Damon movie made about it.
Not Damon.
Of course.
Also in also in that movie, what's her name? Kate Blanchett kind of plays a version of her, but they also combined 4 different women into like one character.
do
That's
that
like
a
an
lot.
They do that
ongoing
a
thing.
lot.
It was a thing in Chernobyl too.
It's so annoying that they like turn it into like the token woman. It's like actually that was like 4 women all doing different things.
That's annoying.
But whatever. So the Americans come in and they're like, "Don't worry, little lady, we'll like save all your art." And at first she's like, "No, I'm not giving you all of my work. I don't trust you." It takes James Rorimer, this American dude, it takes them like months to convince her to actually like hand over her list of like
info,
where everything is gone. And they eventually do. And I think she's responsible for saving somewhere between like 60,000 to 100,000 works of art. Like,
Oh my God.
Van Gogh's, for example.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All these different things that she was like, okay, go to this place, a bunch of things are there. Go to this place, a bunch of things are there. This is where they all are.
Yeah.
But then what happens is the Americans gather everything up and they're like, don't worry, little lady, we'll take this back to America and make sure it's well taken care of. And she was literally like, you're as bad as the Nazis. No, this has to stay, all of this has to stay in Europe and we need to figure out how to get it back to where it belongs and like protect all of these things. They belong here. You're not taking Europe's treasures.
Right.
You're just as bad as Hitler. Which of course was controversial.
Yeah.
But she succeeded. She actually teamed up with a Canadian woman named Edith. I'm blanking on the name, but they kind of worked together to make sure it actually all stayed in Europe. And, the Van Goghs went back to Holland. The, Vermeers went back to also Holland. All this kind of thing, wherever they belong.
Yeah.
And she like risked her life for art, which I
yeah.
really...
Which, we can all
To me,
feel.
like that inspires me. Like every day she showed up and faced the Nazis to protect like culture. You know what I mean? Like, would we have done the same? I don't know. I don't know.
It really
No.
puts things in perspective.
Rose,
Like
be
that's
honest.
badass. Rose
Yeah.
Valland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rose Valland, undercover art
protector.
savior.
Yeah, savior. Yeah.
undercover art savior. Fuck Nazis.
Yeah.
Undercover art savior.
And I just love that she stood up to the Americans too. That she was like, "No, you assholes!" Like, oh, pardon me, but like, you're just as bad as them. No, like this has to stay in Europe.
There you go.
I like it.
Great.
Axe, what do you
My
got?
God. So going back to like well-known people, because I forgot the whole people that you don't know part of the topic. My first choice was Harriet Tubman.
Ah, okay.
Do we get to? Are you nominating that right now?
Yeah.
Well, I think we all.
I mean, we all, that's the thing. Like you can,
We all
y'all can
know her.
like
We all know him.
challenge and like.
Should we? That's what I'm saying. If we pre-challenge it now, then Axe can nominate something else.
Yes.
Because my argument against that would be like, we all know Harriet Tubman.
I
and
think
we
so.
should. We all should.
We should.
Right.
So I think you should nominate something else if you
Okay.
can.
Okay, good. Yes.
throw you
So,
off.
the famous Chris that I had is...
This backfired.
Chrissy Ham.
Chrissy Hams. No. It's actually Sir Christopher Lee. If you've seen Lord of the Rings, you know who he is. If you've seen Star
Yes.
Wars episodes 2 and 3, you know who he is.
Oh, the actor.
Yes, he
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he made-
actor, opera singer, metal singer,
Right.
voice actor, author, World War II veteran, knight.
Right.
A lot of those I learned like over the past week.
He made the top 5 Chris list.
Really?
Yeah, he did. I fought
Oh.
really hard for him.
Interesting.
Yes. So, Axe, how many nominations do you have? Because I'm okay with you nominating lesser known Chris because I feel like a lot of people don't know his life.
True.
I only knew him as
And that's why
Sauron.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
People
Me too.
know this person. So, but I don't want to if you don't have that many on your list, then we can. Go
I've
with
got
it.
like 2 others
Do people know
that
them?
I can people probably know one.
What do you want to go with? What is the table willing to accept here?
Because I got a lot of info on Christopher Lee.
All right.
How much did you? Yeah, that's the thing. Like
I don't
forget,
know anything about Christopher Lee.
let's-
I
Others,
forget
yeah.
how much
Let's
exactly
use
that
him.
you.
I didn't know he sang metal and
Okay.
stuff.
Let's
This is cool.
tell
Yeah.
Axe, tell his
interesting.
story. Tell his story.
Okay, so he served in the Royal Air Force and the precursor to the British SAS from 39 to 46. After serving in World War II, he essentially started a career acting. He was known really well for doing horror movies. So he's got an iconic role as Dracula in 1958. He's played Saruman in Lord of the Rings. He's played Count Dooku. He's played Frankenstein's monster, and his career spans over 7 decades. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yes.
He's fluent in 6 languages, and he was moderately proficient in Swedish, Russian, and Greek before he died. He did his own stunts, even in his old age. He's got more on-screen sword fights than any other actor in history. He is the oldest person in history to hit the Billboard Hot 100 chart for his metal version of Jingle Bells called Jingle Hell off of his Christmas metal album. Yeah.
What?
So,
Is that on Spotify?
I haven't looked, but
it
I
down.
think it would be. He was like a symphonic metal singer. He sang on a bunch of soundtracks. He recorded a few albums and EPs, including the one Christmas album where his single got him on Billboard. I think before that, the oldest person was Tony Robbins. I forget who. He is one of Tim Burton's favorite actors. He's the only person who was involved in Lord of the Rings to actually meet the author Tolkien when he
cool.
was younger. He said, there it is. He said his favorite performance of his is in the original Wicker Man movie in 1973, where he also sang on the soundtrack because his operatic bass voice is something I'm very jealous of. He died 4 years ago at the age of 93. He wanted to play Gandalf and not Sauron, but he was too old at the time, and he thought he was too old to ride on horseback and do all the fighting that Gandalf was going to do in the movies. So he switched over to Saruman instead.
She killed. It was a really great performance.
Yes. He is the step cousin of Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond novels, and James Bond is somewhat based on him.
James Bond, the famous metal singer.
Yes. Did you
Wow, they
not
should
see that
roll with
movie?
that. Yeah.
It's part of his tool
All of
belt.
a sudden, Daniel Craig is like,
Yeah. Did you not
Come to Jingle Hell.
It was a deleted scene in Casino Royale. Did you not? So I think that's mainly what I had that I thought was really interesting and kind of. Oh, he was also considered to play Magneto. So that's another role he lost.
Another Ian McKellen role.
Yes, that is most of the interesting things I have.
I think the cool thing is that
Lee.
he's a successful actor that also fought in the war and he's successful, just a full life. 93. That's nothing to joke about, right? That's just someone who just lived his life and lived it well. So I like that a lot. Yeah, cool. We're going to round 3. Wow, one more round here. Ooh, I'm gonna go with Ian McKellen.
Never heard of that guy. What do you mean?
No. This is tough. I have quite a few people here.
Really?
But there's someone I was going to nominate, but they actually had a movie this year, so it doesn't count.
Like a movie made about them?
Not about them, but he's in the movie, so I'll talk about it later.
Really?
So I'm going to go with, this one was presented by Angus. Thank you, Angus. And thank Angus.
Cheap.
But he presented me with a person called Peter Freuchen. Have you heard of Peter Freuchen?
No.
All right. He's a Danish explorer, author, journalist, and anthropologist. He is notable for his role in the Arctic exploration for the Thule expeditions. And essentially what happened was, he did a lot of kind of Arctic expeditions. So that's a really cool thing. But the thing that stood out to me, what Angus was trying to sell me on this, was that he got stuck in an avalanche and he used his own feces to fashion a dagger, which he freed himself with.
What?
So he's just like, I will not die.
Good for Peter.
Yeah, it's like, Peter, you made
His own frozen poop.
his own frozen.
Wow.
Exactly. Let's
for him.
see. He ended up being in film, which I feel like that's a thing. I don't know. Sarah, you talked about someone who had a whole life and then ended up in film somehow. Mm-hmm. So this guy also ended up in film and did pretty well into it. He was like a leader of a movie company, all that kind of stuff. And he was, I believe he was a script writer as well for an Oscar-winning movie called Eskimo. Eskimo Mala the Magnificent, starring Ray Mala. So I don't know what that is, but it's an Oscar-winning movie.
It's an Oscar-winning movie.
With that too. He was in 1956. There was a game show called the $64,000 Question, in which apparently he came on, never doing one of these quizzes before, and answered every single one of them just instantly. He's just
That's
that, and he won the $64,000. That was really cool. Another cool thing about him is that he was actively involved with the Danish resistance movement against the Nazis, despite having lost a leg to frostbite in one of his expeditions. And whenever he could, he openly claimed to be Jewish whenever he witnessed anti-Semitism. So he was a really good rallier for that. Mm-hmm. This is another cool thing, was he was actually imprisoned by Germans and was sentenced to death, but he managed to escape. And then he got to live out his life with his wife. So that's Peter Freuchen. But what I remember, I remember him for his expeditions, which I won't get into. It's just basically, I don't know, to be able to do something like that, right, in the Arctic, I feel like it's going to be really tough when in that age too, right? But to be able to crawl your way out with a poop dagger is really fun.
That's even more ridiculous.
As his tagline, I wrote "frozen poop."
Frozen poop dagger.
Dagger.
That's another guy that just lived his life.
I like the idea that he's like, I'm not gonna die, so he just escapes from Nazis. So that's really cool.
Wow.
Sarah.
Again, fuck Nazis.
Frozen poop.
We all go away with one thing from this. Okay, so my last nomination, official nomination, I know that we'll do another round of honorable mentions and stuff, but is this woman named Dorothea Dix. So Dorothea, again, grew up in a not so hot environment, went on her life journey, and then returned. She's from the States, and then she returned to the States and started and became this amazing activist for people who are suffering and living with mental illness. She returned back, I guess this is around 1840s. And what she would do is she would take studies of how people were being treated, and like nobody was taking care of people that that were living with mental illness. So they were often left in pretty dire straits, and she was the one that advocated on their behalf, saying like, hey, these are like human beings, and like maybe we should treat them with a little bit of respect here. And
controversial.
So she brought forward this whole notion, these reports that she had done to various state legislators, and then eventually those were passed, and they went on to Congress, and those were passed. And anyway, it's because of her that, or I'm sure there's other people involved as well, but from my quick research, some of the very first state-funded and run hospitals and locations were actually built and then funded for individuals that were living with mental illness. And so Dorothea Dix, cool lady. She did some other pretty cool stuff, but I'll shine the light on her advocacy for mental illness.
Okay.
And that's what
That's
I'll
great,
Wow.
Dorothea, cool lady.
Mental health advocate
Yeah.
is what we say. Dorothea Dix.
Dorothea Dix.
Dorothea. That's the first Dorothea I've ever. I didn't even know that was a name.
Remember,
until
I
today.
asked you guys. I was like, "How do I say this?"
I think it is. I don't think it's Dorothy. I think it's Dorothea.
Dorothea?
Yeah,
Is that
Dorothea. I don't know. Dorothea.
Dorothea.
Boom.
Cool. Awesome.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. What happened here?
Oh, no.
What happened here? I'm sorry. My notes just deleted itself. No, it's back.
Oh, thank God. Thank God for recently deleted.
This is the most notes I've ever written for a podcast. Oh, this really broke my heart for a second. No, I'd say, Catherine.
Okay. So y'all have heard of Rosa Parks, yes?
Yes.
But have you heard of Claudette Colvin?
No.
Yes. Okay, great. Excellent. So, Claudette Colvin, she was an American nurse aide and a pioneer of the American Civil Rights Movement. So, on March 2nd, 1955, 9 months before Rosa Parks, she was arrested at the age of 15 in Montgomery, Alabama, for refusing to give up her seat to a white woman on a crowded, segregated bus.
Oh,
Right?
sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So what's funny is history remembers Rosa Parks, and do you know why? It was because Claudette's mom went to Claudette and said, "You know what? White people are gonna like Rosa Parks better." It was kind of a bit of a shadist thing. It was kind of she is slightly lighter skin. She is she's a better icon for the movement.
Right.
White people will be able to kind of digest her a bit better than you, Claudette, right? So Claudette was like, you know what? If this is for the greater good of the movement, sure, let Rosa have it, right? But she was arrested 9 months before Rosa Parks. And like, she's kind of, well, I mean, when you Google her, there's a lot about her because she ended up being, of course, one of the 5 plaintiffs of the Browder versus Gale federal case that actually led to the calling off the Montgomery bus boycott, right? So it led to actually buses being like non-segregated, you know what I mean, in Alabama. And so she was a big part of that movement and that sort of thing. But she let Rosa kind of take most of the limelight because she realized that, like, you know what, for the greater good and for people to actually listen to us and to like take our message, you know, I will take that. But she worked her butt off. And was part of that like federal court case. Wow. And she was also the secretary of her local chapter of the NAACP. And she actually was a part of all of those, like those bus boycott, you know, when they were like traveling around on their buses doing their like demonstrations and that sort of thing. She was right in the middle of it. But for some reason, she's kind of like a little bit forgotten in history.
Well,
like
I didn't know who
think,
that was,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. We hear of all these different names, but she stepped back. She like did her part, but she stepped back. She's like, I'm not doing it for the fame. You know what I mean? I'm not doing it like to be known. Like I understand that this is an important thing. And yeah, Claudette Colvin from Montgomery, Alabama.
Wow.
Oh, and she's still alive. She lives in the Bronx. Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
How do we want to classify her?
Civil rights.
Civil rights advocate.
Bus person. Yeah.
Civil
something like
rights.
The original Rosa Parks.
Original Rosa Parks.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Wow, I love it. I actually got one last nomination here.
Hold on. The OG.
OG Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks. Wonderful. Sorry, what were we talking about?
Your last nomination.
Okay, yes. So I'm glad I looked this lady up as well as Harriet Tubman because I knew she was probably a bit lesser known. Katherine Johnson, the mathematician. She was portrayed by, what's her name?
Oh, in Hidden Figures.
Yes. What's her? Yeah. I forget. Taraji P. Henson.
That's her. Yes,
Played her in Hidden Figures. She is a famous mathematician. She, like a lot of the math that went into the Apollo 11 in 1969 was her work, even though she was essentially working against all of the odds because she was told to use the bathroom on the other side of the campus where they worked. So it would take her, like half an hour to get to the washroom. And then she'd be, all sweaty and gross and just flustered every time she went into the office because she had to visit the colored washroom that was on the other side of the campus. So that, among other things, was why, I don't know, like not many people remember her. And then a lot of the people that she worked with, a lot of the white men she worked with, just essentially treated her like crap or treated her as an afterthought, even though a lot of the work that went into the moon landing was directly due to her work. Like
she did
her
a lot of the
calculations.
math.
Yeah, she did a lot of math, essentially.
Yeah.
So that was another one that was like really interesting to me. Also because I watched Hidden Figures again recently.
It's a good movie. It is a good movie.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's okay.
Janelle Monáe is in it, too.
I love Janelle Monáe.
Yeah.
So
But
much.
beautiful.
didn't I know some like scenes in the movie never happened in real life. And I know some people who were like directly kind of, I'm not sure which women watched the movie and they're like, that's not how it happened or
Well,
whatever.
Kevin Costner's character
Yeah.
was kind of made up.
Yeah.
From what
Made
I
up.
understand, when he was like, "Let's tear this sign
Yeah,
down.
that's
She
the
can
big-
use any
that's
bathroom."
the one where
that
it's
didn't
just like
really
a
happen.
real
that
Hollywood-
was a bit sensational.
The Hollywood
Yeah.
moment where this white man's like, I'm gonna help you
I'm
black.
your
Don't you
white
worry, I got
savior.
this.
Yeah.
And then Green Book came
Anybody
out.
can use this bathroom. Now get back to work. It's like,
That didn't happen.
Kevin Costner, you're not. So I think that movie's a little problematic, but I do like the nomination for that. Okay, we have a list of 12 really
what a
interesting
list.
people, and I'm really excited to rank it. We're going to take a quick break and kind of figure this out. We'll be right back. Hey you, yeah you. Now I know what you're thinking. Tung, I'm super mad at you. Your list is flawed. I'm not a part of the nomination rounds. Well, listen. Just know you're in my personal top 5. Now I see you Googling your competition out there, Googling all these other interesting people that we just mentioned in the first half of this episode. But hey, while you're at it, why not open up our Amazon affiliate link that's located at the top of www.podcavern.com. That's www.podcavern.com. Anytime that you purchase anything off Amazon, the Pod Cavern gets a small amount of that purchase as a little kickback. And get this, it doesn't even change the price. Prices are the same and you get to help out the Pod Cavern. Now that's interesting. So save that Amazon affiliate link in your favorites and enjoy the rest of Top 5 Interesting People You've Never Heard About.
Top five.
Hey everyone, we are back. We had a nice little break here. Us interesting people, you know how we do. But again, today's not about us. Today's about other people that are somewhat interesting. No, they're very interesting. We have an amazing list, I have to say, and I'm actually really, Catherine, you just mentioned this like seconds ago, but I'm so pumped how many women are on this list.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, it's so cool. So here is our master list of 12. It's going to be like this. Ching Shi, Pirate Queen. Hang Nor, Cambodian doctor and movie star. Joanna Van Gogh, Vincent's sister-in-law. Niki Lauda, F1 entrepreneur, cheated death. Mike Malloy, Iron Mike. Mary Anning, lightning paleontologist. Rose Valland. Valland. Undercover art savior. Fuck Nazis. Christopher Lee. Metal Life. Saruman Dooku. Peter Freuchen. Frozen Poop Dagger. Danish Expedition. Dorothea Dix. Mental health advocate. Claudette Colvin. Civil rights activist. OG Rosa Parks. And Katherine Johnson. NASA Math. So we have to star the ones that we want further discussion about. And, this is going to be tough, I think, because there's so many interesting people. But alas, there's some that are more interesting than others, perhaps, but also some that are, lesser known.
Yes.
as well.
Yeah,
right?
so
Some of the
it's
less were more well
yeah,
known.
kind of like what we
Yeah.
were talking about before, like
Yeah.
that kind of balance there.
So if that's the case, I would suggest Christopher Lee is off the list.
And
Yeah.
And
fine with
I
that.
might
That's
also
okay.
have to say Katherine Johnson
Me too,
because
there was
Hidden Figures.
Me too.
Kind of
Had this
brought
been-
her back into the spotlight.
Yeah, had this been pre-Hidden
Yes,
Figures,
yeah.
it'd be a whole different story.
Should have
But
started this 2 years ago.
I know.
Damn it, tongue.
Sorry, Axe. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine.
No, it's just because of that, right? Because like the only reason I know this person is because I'm picturing the movie right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but there's some cool math in the movie.
Do you get any of it? Because I don't.
No, I don't understand it.
I will. Yeah, I do like that we acknowledge that the movie was kind of inaccurate, though,
Yes,
too. Like,
yes.
didn't always portray her story properly. But
Yes.
yeah,
Like
at least
most
the name
movies.
is known now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Who do we want to star, everyone? What do you think?
So I'm leaning towards people who have like historical significance or like influence, perhaps, without like being as known. Like, I love the idea of Hang Nord. That's a crazy story.
I'm obsessed
Yeah.
with Hang Nord.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that guy.
I don't think there are many people. I don't think there are many people who have lived their lives, lived extraordinary lives, and then acted in movies about their extraordinary lives. You know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
His own experience,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
won an Academy Award, and then
That's also
Let's-
ridiculous.
And then died tragically.
Let's
like,
start. Let's start Hang for further discussion.
Yes,
Who else do we want to do here?
I do like Ching
like
Shi.
Ching Shi is amazing.
Like I hate that it's Tung's nomination because I hate Tung, but also
You know this.
just being honest.
I'll bring you a jingle hall after this.
oh shit.
That's not
Did
sexy.
it go like jingle hell? Like, how does that go?
I honestly, I still need to give it a listen, but I thought the idea was hilarious and
Yeah.
awesome, and I loved it.
That's great.
He got famous off of it.
Cool. Yeah, we can star the Pirate Queen for sure.
Yes.
Who else do we want to do?
I'm leaning towards like our more World War II kind of people, like Peter Freuchen and Rose Valland, like because
Yeah.
that's
Rose is
interesting
pretty
people
incredible.
who lived in a really interesting
I really
time,
like
right?
Rose's. I like Rose a lot.
Yeah,
I like
Rose is
Well, me
I like
too.
Peter. I like Peter as well because he's my nomination. But I really like Rose. I guess my only knock against Peter, even though I don't think it's that much of a knock, but he was on a similar podcast. Cracked podcast covered Peter as well.
And Drunk History covered Rose Valland.
So maybe
that's
okay. So in that case, we're
Drunk
kind of
History's
evened out.
Yeah,
so okay,
yeah.
so we can kind of.
Drunk
How about
history
we-
is
Shall we
better.
keep them with stars
We'll
for now?
keep them with stars,
Yeah.
and we
I'm
can
cool
battle
with
it
it.
later.
Yeah.
What? And I know this is my nomination, but you guys all seem really cool about Mike.
Mike was definitely interesting.
Well, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Can't-
He's
and I've never heard of
He's
him.
just an interesting
Yeah.
guy. He's the significance of what he's ripple effects. That's the only thing, right? Like maybe he hasn't like actually done anything to the world, but he's just a guy who just won't die.
Yeah.
But what I
a
kind
zombie.
of that's what I kind of like about it though
Yeah.
is that like he's still interesting even if like he didn't have a massive impact on
No, he
on the
just
history
lived
of the
a
world,
ridiculous
but there's
life,
still
yeah.
fascinating what
Yeah, I
his
think
crazy
he's
body
just,
went through.
this guy, rat poison.
Turpentine,
Look at its shots
paint
of
thinner,
turpentine.
like whatever.
He got ran over by a car. Like,
Twice.
I would have loved to have like seen his liver after that. Like, what did it look like?
like
You know, like
pristine.
what
Just
did it?
black.
I think the
Untouched.
Zombie liver.
I think the satisfying ending to this guy is like the people.
Yeah.
Like those people died
People
Yeah.
who killed him.
instantly. So
Yeah.
that's so.
And they only
satisfying.
got $800 each.
Yeah,
or
like
something.
I don't even know exactly. It's like around $800. I'm not sure if it was each, to be honest. So
God.
I don't
Wow.
know. I don't know. And I think
That'd be
the
worse.
money was spent on like a suit. They spent the money on like let's buy a suit.
You mean so they could go to court and try to defend themselves against murder?
And
they
get
die, yeah.
electrocuted in said suits.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a fascinating story. It's just okay.
Yeah.
I got
So
stars.
I'll star him, but we can cut him later if we need to. And what else do we have?
I mean, I like Niki Lauda, but it's very. I mean, compared to the other nominations, it's very niche.
I like
I
him
don't
too.
know much about Formula One racing,
that's
to be
the thing,
honest.
Yeah.
And
right?
that's an interesting
Yeah,
story.
he's a huge
but-
prolific figure
Yeah.
in Formula One. Like dozens of drivers attended his funeral. Arnold Schwarzenegger attended his funeral.
Whoa.
Shit like
Arnie?
that. Yeah.
You should
yeah,
have said
'cause they're
that
both
before.
Austrian.
There, that's interesting.
They're both
have a winner.
Austrian. That was my bombshell.
Arnie Schwartz?
Arnie Schwartz.
Yeah, because they're both Austrian, and he was like a huge figure
Oh, of
in
course.
Austrian
Right,
history as well
right.
because of his success
Um,
and because of his crazy story about cheating death.
yeah.
So you know,
I know. What about so no Niki Lauda then is what I'm hearing.
I'm cool
not
with
as
it.
passionate
I'm
about
gonna
it.
go
Yeah,
home
he
and watch
didn't stir
Rush. Like
me.
I'm not.
Yeah, let's all watch Rush. That sounds great. Yeah.
What about okay? Let's name the ones that haven't been pointed out yet.
So Joanna Van Gogh.
Yeah.
Joanna Van Gogh.
I love the idea of like the women behind the man. You know,
Yeah.
like I love that. Love that shit.
I think because to me Joanna and Rose are similar only in the way that it tackles art, right?
Yeah,
like it's
yeah,
very
yeah.
like this is the person who did art in their own way, or like
Yeah, they were both advocates for art. They were really just both wanted to protect it, kind of in different ways. It's ironic that Rose probably protected some Van Goghs
Yeah.
that
That is a
Joanna
nice story.
would have marketed.
Yeah.
You know?
and if that's the case, then Rose did.
She risked her
She
life
risked her
more,
life,
I would
right?
say.
She was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
undercover, right?
Absolutely.
So I think she's more interesting, although Joanna, I never knew about that, so I think that's really cool too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You all know about like Vincent, his crazy life, but
Okay, I feel
wanted-
comfortable with that.
I think we
Yeah.
have 5 stars right now.
well, I'd
We
love to
might
bring
already, yeah.
I'd love to bring up Mary and Dorothea. Mary, just
Right.
her, because she has her interesting story. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that like she didn't really have a formal education, and then like pretty much started paleontology like as a thing.
Yeah.
As a
You know?
hobby.
Certainly, her findings really, I guess they all came out about, I think what I was reading, like 30 years before Darwin then published his, the theory of evolution and stuff. So, like, all of the stuff that she was finding, really, that was the time when, like, certainly creationism was like the like the ruling
Right.
thought. So like when she was bringing all this stuff forward, they had certainly found fossils, but they just could not explain all of these findings.
Put it all together,
And
yeah.
she herself, as a devout Catholic, was like, "What's happening to my brain?" And then I guess like the local priest was like, "Get out! You're a sinner!" And anyway.
Blasphemous.
And then she was described as like a 28-year-old spinster. Anyway, this whole go Mary.
And without Mary, we don't get Ross Geller, and we don't get Friends.
Oh God.
Which is problematic as well. Yes, but
Yeah.
still an important piece.
I
guess.
like Mary. I like Mary a lot, actually. I think that's a cool one.
For some reason, I was putting Mary and Dorothea in the same cat. Oh no, they're very different though. Maybe
very
just because
different.
you
Yeah.
pitched them both.
think so.
but
Yeah. Well, I think of them both as like, women advocates or single. I don't know.
Yeah, and-
they're the same person in my brain too. Quasi.
Yeah,
They're
well,
not.
I just because they probably had to butt up against a lot of, well, especially Dorothea, a lot of like stigma.
Yes.
Is when it comes to like mental health.
Right.
And actually it being, because, you know, back in the day you were just like possessed or, you know, like your
Yeah.
humors
Or
were out
lobotomized.
of balance and
Yeah.
lobotomized or something, you know. So that would have taken a lot of guts to stand up for that. Like, don't you
and two
think?
very male-dominated fields, and
Yeah.
it would have been that's why they're pretty cool. Pretty cool
that's
ladies.
tough. So
but we
is-
can choose like mental health, dinos, right? Two really important.
Both are really
so
important.
important and necessary.
Lightning dinos.
Lightning dinos.
That's tough.
God, if lightning dynasty
Okay,
existed.
let's
what
see.
about Claudette?
Like Claudette, does
Oh, and
she?
Claudette too, yeah. Well,
I like her story a lot.
I
though.
love
Yeah.
her story
I
about
love
like
that she
it
was the
being
bigger
more about the
person.
movement
Yeah.
than
the
her.
like kind of like sacrifice
There's a
she made
sacrifice
for
to
that.
it, which
yeah.
I like.
Absolutely.
That's what I found fascinating because I remember someone told me like, oh yeah, Rosa Parks, but did you know that someone else was arrested for it and like no one knows about her? And it was like, wait, what? You always hear like she's like Rosa Parks became the icon for that. You know what I mean? So I just find that story really interesting, and then the fact that she did continue with the
Yeah.
movement and like did a lot of kind of work for it and didn't necessarily get all the glory for it because that's not what she was going for.
Right.
You know, she just seems like an interesting lady. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was so young.
Okay, I'll give us-
Oh, she was 15 when it
15 when she got
happened.
arrested.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
baby.
nuts.
Yeah.
I'll highlight the stars that we have now because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Uh-oh.
Which we will cut 3, of course. But we have Ching-Chi, Pirate Queen, Mike Malloy, Iron Mike, Peter Freuchen, Frozen Poop Dagger, Hang Nor, Cambodian Doctor and Movie Star, Mary Anning, Lightning Paleontologist, Dorothea Dix, Mental Health Advocate, Rose Valland, Undercover Art Savior, and Claudette Colvin, OG Rosa Parks. So we need to cut 3 from here.
Well, I would say we can decide between Dorothea and Mary. It seems
Yes.
like
Yeah.
we're
I'm
kind
happy
of
with that. Yeah.
which would we? I mean, Mary has
A Little Lamb. Never mind.
what?
Sorry, bad joke.
We're cutting tongue from the cast.
I'm sorry. And
She,
I'll see myself out.
For me, her story is fascinating. And I mean, perhaps paleontology is a very different field of study than like mental health advocacy. Like to me, mental health advocacy is like something that's really like ongoing and like an ongoing struggle. And you know what I mean? But Mary's story, for some reason, is just more.
Yeah. I think it's incredible that she even survived a lightning strike.
Yeah.
Just
15 months.
Yeah,
15 months.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the fact that she was just like, this kind of like poor, uneducated kid that was just collecting all these things and was
Made
like,
all
no,
these
I'm
discoveries
going to
in the
stick with it.
neuroscience.
Yeah. And I'm going to see this through. And was a 28-year-old spinster.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yes.
Okay, let's cut Dorothea Dix then.
I mean, the work she did was amazing,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
I just
Saint
Mary's
Teresa.
story was more interesting. Okay, well, Sarah's
It's
husband.
She was
so hard.
conflicted.
Yeah.
Like, it's so because it's true. Like I was leaning more towards Mary for sure, but then I think about like mental health advocacy.
Yeah.
Like
It's
very
if
important.
she, I don't know if she was the first and foremost, but she definitely pushed that whole
Yeah.
agenda that like maybe we shouldn't leave people on the streets and maybe we shouldn't just
Don't
like
just
tie
zap them with-
yeah, tie them up to beds and like
Yeah.
and then just close the door. Like to actually insist that the government still be responsible for their citizens, even if they were not, even if they were ill, is kind of really incredible.
Yeah.
But
I see it. Yeah.
because it's certainly not a very sexy. It's not as sexy as dinosaurs.
No, it's not
It's not as sexy as dinosaurs.
it's true. Yeah.
Is that what it's
But-
going to come down to? Oh,
well, dinosaurs are
maybe
sexy.
they are
gorgeous.
pretty
Have you
sexy.
seen them in a
lived on this
bikini?
planet. It's amazing.
She found whole skeletons as like a
skeletons.
child.
Yeah.
That's, like,
I
that's
think-
insane.
That's just it.
Super
So-
hot. Like the comet that killed dinosaurs.
Good one.
Okay, I'm okay with. I think Dorothea Dix, like obviously, I mean, it's an honor to be nominated. It's an honor to be nominated. But we have to make the hard cuts.
All right.
And
Okay,
I do
okay.
think mental health is to be a mental health advocate back then, especially.
In 1840s.
Even now.
Even
Yeah.
now, it is really admirable, and
Yeah.
I fully subscribe to that. It's just, is it more interesting than the other story? I don't know. That's all.
If we're going for interesting.
Interesting. That's
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
it. So I'm gonna go with that.
The lightning dinosaurs?
Okay.
Okay, so that gives us two more we have to cut.
Okay.
I'm okay with letting one of mine go
This is totally
because
doable.
I have all three of my nominations.
I like Mike Malloy better than I like Peter Forkin.
Me too.
Me
Yeah.
too.
But the thing is, I like Ching Shi and Mike Malloy very much. so.
fuck.
Oh, I love
Ching
Ching
Shi.
Chi.
Yeah,
Damn
She's
it.
not going nowhere.
She's pretty. I think we all agree she's pretty badass.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm down with letting
I'm gonna be
Peter
here for
Freuchen
Halloween.
going.
Okay.
Even though he seems like a total badass for sure. I was just reading because I kind of just scrolling through his bio that I wrote down here. He crossed like 1,000 kilometers of a sheet of ice in part of his expedition, and just him and his buddy just to explore and stuff like that. So he just seems like a really obviously he lost a leg with
go-getter.
frostbite, right? So he just seems like a total badass. But you know what?
Go getter.
Mike Malloy just won't die. So I think that's a little bit more interesting.
Peter survived all that too.
Peter did, yeah.
True.
It's just that Peter had more of a cause. Mike didn't really have a cause other than drinking.
Which makes it even more interesting.
But if I saw both of them at a bar, I'd be like, "What's this guy's
Yeah,
deal?"
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, you'd be
this
like, that
stubborn
guy's
motherfucker?
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems interesting.
All right,
He's
all right.
stubborn. I'm okay with letting, at least for the three nominations that I have, I find
Right.
Ching and Mike not way more, but slightly more
All
interesting.
right, you can let Peter go.
Okay, so we gotta cut one more.
Yeah, we're at
Oh my
6.
God.
So we have Ching, Mike, Hang. We're on a first name basis now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mary, Rose,
Rose and
and
Claudette.
Claudette.
Dang.
Oh
Can
no.
Yes.
Can I pose something here? Just feel the room. See what
Okay,
people feel.
okay.
Tread lightly.
I'm treading lightly here.
Careful now.
Here it is. Claudette.
God damn it!
I knew you were gonna say that.
Or Hang.
Take that back right now.
Okay. Claudette.
So it's you think it's between Claudette and Hang, eh?
I think it's more so between Claudette and Mary versus.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is weird for me, because I'm obsessed with dinosaurs. So,
Yeah. And those are your two nominations, Mary and Hang, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like Hang's staying because you love Hang.
Hang's going nowhere.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Star
It's good to see like where people's are more passionate about here.
Loyalties are.
Yeah. Well, Catherine, what
Yes.
do you think? What do you think about this?
Between Mary and Claudette?
Yeah, or Axe, what do you guys think
Or
about this?
any other, I guess.
You have an
Yeah.
opinion too,
Yeah,
Ax. Yeah. Listen to yours.
Do?
I mean, he didn't even read what this podcast was about today, so he brought like all famous people.
I'm leaving.
No, come back. Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
Bad. That's the thing. I like.
Well,
I like.
paleontology is paleontology,
Yeah.
but like the civil rights movement is the
Right,
civil
that's what
rights
I like
movement.
where Claudette fits in the civil rights movement is a very important thing, I find.
Yeah.
And it is pretty interesting that it was 9 months before Rosa Parks and that she decided to be the bigger person.
Yeah, it's really
And,
admirable.
do it for
15.
the
At
greater good.
15 as well. And
I wouldn't do
Rosa,
that now.
I think Rosa Parks was in her 30s or 40s when it happened, and
Something like
Claudette
that.
was 15.
Yeah.
She's still around.
I'm like, I don't get the glory? No, that's impossible.
2019 mood.
Oh, but Sarah had a thought.
Sarah's
here.
making a face.
no.
Sarah's making a face.
She just took a big dramatic breath and then let it go.
I think she just whispered hang.
Sweet Hank. I personally would take Claudette over Mary.
I think if it comes down to like this final
Yeah.
top 5 list, the
That's
civil
tough.
rights movement versus although the destruction of creationism
That's
in the
huge,
movie
Is
of
also-
evolution is so important.
It's
too.
so tough for me here because like
Who else don't we like on this list?
We like everyone. but then for me, that just takes me back to Mike. That like Mike had, he didn't have the civil rights movement. He didn't have cremation. He just had alcohol.
He just had
I'm being
a
Irish.
solid liver.
I just think it's so
the story is
He's
interesting.
so
It is-
interesting.
and
it
we
is
don't
interesting.
know about him.
Yeah, he's such
And
a
you had us wrapped the whole time. The whole time we were like, he drank what? What? It took what to kill
yeah,
him?
he just
like,
everything. Everything. So I remain that he's very interesting. So for me, Claudette and Mary. And if I had to choose between the two, I think personally I would give the slight edge to Mary. For me, only because Claudette's story is something that it's just like it's Rosa Parks' story, but somebody else. So it's like
I
a
see what
story
you're
I'm familiar
saying.
with, but it's just somebody else. I shouldn't say just somebody else, obviously, like that. But and she seems like she's done a lot, so I don't want to take that away from her either. It's just I haven't heard Mary's story before, and now you're just giving me Rosa Parks' story, but you're saying this other person.
that happened 9 months before.
So that's the
Yeah.
only thing.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
I see what you're saying because again, like the theme is interesting people who we've never heard of versus like influential people or like
Versus you're like, okay, I have heard that story.
Yeah.
It just to me was someone else.
Yeah.
Like it's a similar story.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the thing. Is
okay.
I've seen the story, or I guess in a way.
I might buy that.
that's
Maybe.
not a bad point.
Axe,
Yeah, I
thoughts?
I can get behind that reasoning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Versus who else is a lady dinosaur hunter, uneducated lady dinosaur hunter?
Right.
Exactly. Never heard that.
Maybe like Lara Croft. Does that? No, she's
Yeah.
not a dinosaur.
No, she just stole
Yes.
things from tombs.
She's a tomb raider. She's Angelina Jolie, or the other one, Alicia something.
Alicia Vikander.
That's right.
Yeah. It was all right.
Okay, so we're thinking maybe cutting Claudette in favor of Mary. Is this what we're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking.
Which leaves us with a solid list anyway.
that's what
So then
we have
Claudette
to
would
rank
be
them?
like
Yeah.
like a number 6. Like Claudette
Yeah,
would
she'd
be
be-
like
Yeah.
Can we even do 5.5?
5.5.
5 and a half.
5.5?
Yeah. All right.
5.5? Okay.
Top 5.5 lists of stuff that don't matter.
Everything,
We're gonna stretch the rules until we get to 10.
everything's 5.5 if you're not on the 5. Okay, this is what we have. We have Ching Shi, Pirate Queen, Mike Malloy, Iron Mike, Hang Nor, Cambodian Doctor, movie star, Mary Anning, lightning paleontologist, and Rose Vallon, undercover art savior. I'm okay personally to put. It sounded like
Mike number
Mike with
5.
5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I think
That's
he's
fine.
incredibly interesting, but when you compare to these other people who've actually done stuff,
That's what I mean.
that's
yeah.
okay. But I needed him to be on this
Yes,
list.
no,
'cause
no.
it's just-
yeah,
That is a
it's
crazy
incredible story.
All right, so Mike, number 5.
Iron Mike.
Um,
Boy.
Now it becomes tougher. What do you guys think? Or Does Mary hit number 4? Because she was almost on the chopping block.
I was gonna say Mary at number 4. Yeah, because
I think so.
And
her life was never in danger. I don't think. I
Yeah.
mean, the
Yeah.
cliffs were treacherous.
I mean,
but
she almost died from lightning.
but like it was by choice. Oh, you're right. But that's where
was
she
not
got her
her
smarts
choice.
from.
That's right. You're right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't know how lightning works.
So, well, how about this? The other 3 consciously risked their lives,
Yeah.
whereas Mary, that was just a freak accident that maybe she
Yeah.
benefited
Freak
from. you
accident.
know?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say Mary 4 is
Okay.
safe.
Okay.
I think that's safe.
And I almost want to put, is it Ching Si?
Ching Shi?
Shi, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Ching Shi at number 3 because like she was kind of like a criminal. Like
Interesting
career
people.
criminal.
Interesting people. From prostitute to
Like-
pirate lord
and to retiring at 35 and just
to
being
be
like, fuck
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that.
the most
and
successful pirate of all time. That's
But also still a pirate.
She should teach. Like, this is how you live life. This is how you.
Should teach seminars.
apparently she's
Yeah.
pretty cutthroat too. She's
Yeah.
like, if you disobey me,
All the other young
slice.
people in history.
You'd have to be.
kicked
You'd
ass.
have to be.
Oh yeah, I think she's so interesting. Well, let's see who else we like. We have Ching Shi.
We have Hang Nor and
Ching
Rose
Hang
Villan.
and Rose.
I mean, I
I'm
think-
watching you.
Sarah, I need you to give me more on Hang.
The more I
'cause-
think about it, and the more I look at Sarah's murderous face,
The more we're all loving
mo-
Hang, right?
I guess
need-
you know what? Okay,
I need to
full
hear more about
disclosure.
Hang.
Full disclosure. Like I visited Cambodia about 6 months ago, and I didn't know anything about Hang until
Yeah.
I read about him yesterday on
Yeah.
the internet. So maybe, like in truth, I have like an extra. And I went and I visited the killing fields
Yeah.
and S21 and some. So maybe I do have a stronger emotional attachment to this gentleman
Right.
than.
But his story is crazy.
yeah,
Story's
also
crazy.
that.
And he goes and he wins an Oscar. Like,
So
That's
but now we're becoming
interesting.
like, okay, is an Oscar more interesting? And it is, but is it more interesting
it?
than commanding like 1,800 ships
or
like-
saving like 60,000 works of art. From
Yeah,
the-
right.
Yeah, from the
That's what I mean.
Nazis.
It's just
and she never got an award for it.
I just
Nope.
don't know if that's.
She didn't need no one.
No,
she's
she did it
Rose
for
Villan.
love.
Okay.
She did it for love. Yeah.
I think I have an order.
Say it, and we'll
okay.
scream at you.
So we've got So we've got Mike, Mary, Hang, Ching, Rose.
Oh, that's reverse order you're talking,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
I
Oh, from 5 to 1.
5 to 1.
I can live with that.
I think-
I can live
I'm
with
cool
that.
with that.
Sorry, I did all that in my head. I kinda just, the gears were.
So why
moving.
would you put Ching before
Yes,
Hang?
I want to.
That would be
Ching before Hang.
Yeah. Why would you
I
put
think
Ching 2 before Hang?
I think because of what Tuong had mentioned about like her exploits, essentially commanding 1,800 ships, retiring at 35,
And the
still
fact-
being the most prolific or like the most successful pirate.
And the fact that
ever.
like for some reason we still only know Blackbeard. Or
we
whatever
know
his name
Blackbeard and
is.
we know Jack Sparrow.
Yeah,
And
but
from-
like why not her?
And coming
Yeah.
from a profession that people like scoff at, right? People are like, "You're a prostitute. You're a sex object, right?" And this woman turns that into her greatest power and becomes
Yeah.
the most feared pirate, right? Like
I also
that
read.
is-
I think she had like a lot of business acumen. Like she kind of.
yeah.
Oh, she. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
She knew
like,
business.
As she was managing her husband's fleet before taking it over, I think that's something that she kind of focused on as well. And then he died, and she fully took over.
She got her part-time MBA or something while
yeah,
doing all that.
essentially
Online.
whatever the
Online.
18th century, whatever the 19th
Whatever the
century version of
equivalent
it is.
is, yeah.
Do they accept gold doubloons on the internet?
Pirate MBA. I mean, listen, it's either that or Bitcoin. What's the difference?
I like that order. I do because
I'm down with that. That puts my Rose at number 1. I'm
'cause
down.
for at the end
Gave
of the
the win to
day,
someone
Ching
else, I'm
versus
sorry.
Rose.
I'm too close to it. I'm too close. I'm too close to it. Okay.
I'm okay
What a
with
dreamboat, though.
Ching
Right?
and Rose. I guess the only, and this is in favor of Rose, is because at the end of the day, Rose was doing something to
Honorable.
positive and
Yeah.
honorable.
We're
But you
literally
know what?
in a theater.
It's a pirate's life for me. Baby.
It's a
We're in
pirate.
a pod cavern.
Also,
yeah,
the
right.
pod cavern has lots of art on the walls. Is all I'm saying.
There's the Pod Cavern is hosted in an artistic institution at the moment. That's all.
Okay, is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, so we have number 5, Mike Malloy. Number 4, Mary Anning. Number 3, Hang Nor. Number 2, Ching Shi. And number 1, Rose Villan.
Nice and
St. Catherine.
Nice.
We all win
Good
here.
job,
We
groups.
all win here.
We all have a shit ton of stuff that we're gonna Google later, and
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Guys, this is a cool list. This is a really cool list. We're going to do honorable mentions. We're going to do a little bit differently. Everyone gets basically 2 and, a little Cliff Notes version of it. We don't get into a big thing about it. I'll go first. I'm just trying to find the person. The person I was going to go with, not a long story, but James Harrison. He's the man with the golden arm. James' blood produces a rare antibody which cures the otherwise fatal rhesus disease in unborn children. He donated blood 1,173 times and saved the lives of almost 2.4 million babies.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Whoa,
So, yeah.
that guy's
James.
That guy's cool. And he had to stop at the age of 77 because they told him he can't do it anymore. So.
cool. Your platelets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. James Harrison. Go ahead.
Any more?
No.
The first woman I'm going to mention is is a woman named Michelle Hensley. She is the founder of a company called 10,000 Things Theater in St. Paul's, Minnesota. The mandate of this theater company is to bring theater to marginalized communities, and they do it all for free. So they bring these theaters, so they bring shows done by like some of the top professional actors in the state to places like correctional facilities and low-income seniors' homes and women's shelters and stuff like that. So that was her whole mandate, and she was like, theater's for everyone. It's far more interesting when everyone can see it. So she's super cool.
Yeah.
And then this other really amazing woman whose name is Janelle
Monet?
Yes.
Janelle Pewapskonius, and she lives in Saskatoon right now, and she is the founder and the chief game maker of this Indigenous themed board game that is not unlike the Game of Life. And what it is, it's to educate all of us about some of the typical stereotypical thinking that we have in terms of the Indigenous population,
cool.
and it allows everybody to learn a lot more about.
I'm sure it's way more fun than the Game of Life.
Yeah, because it's way more about you gain like resilience points versus like getting a lot of money. So it's all about being So anyway, that's a very rough. So those are my shout outs.
I love it.
Nice.
Interesting people.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, my first honorable mention is Mahapajapati Gotami, who was Buddha's aunt and the first Buddhist female nun. So she led what, this all came up at the anniversary of the Women's March this year, because like technically she ran the first like recorded Women's March. Essentially, she rounded up when her nephew was like, nah, women can't be Buddhist nuns. Like, what are you talking about? She rounded up 500 other ladies, marched something like 300 miles up to his like temple and like demanded that he accept them, or she demanded that he accept them and stuff. And they even, donned the yellow robe, shaved their heads, all that kind of thing. And then he eventually was like, all right, women can be nuns, but they'll be below monks, like there were like some sacrifices made there, but she essentially led the first women's march.
Wow.
Very cool.
Recorded in history, I suppose. And the other one was Sylvia Beach, who is the founder of Shakespeare and Company, which is a publisher in Paris, actually, who published such works of art as Ulysses by James Joyce.
Oh, that little story.
Okay.
Yeah,
That little short story. Yeah.
She was the only, at the time, she was the only publisher that would touch it because it was super controversial and it was getting like crazy fines in the States for being obscene and all this kind of stuff. And she was like, no, I'll publish that.
It's always the best.
And then it obviously did really well. And she also gave a young man by the name of Ernest Hemingway. She published his first novel and like that. And she's just this like sweet little lady living in Paris. And also around the same time as Rose Valland, she had to like protect all of her books and stuff like that because they were going to be stolen by Nazis. So she hid all of her books up in her like attic and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Cool.
She's an
Very
interesting
cool.
lady. And there are these really funny interviews of her on YouTube of her like waxing poetically about that time I met like Gertrude Stein and like, all these kind of things.
Okay.
It's really interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Axe, what do you got?
Cool. Okay, so I delved a lot into history before realizing that people should have been lesser known.
Okay.
So I had Hannibal, the Carthaginian admiral who almost conquered the Roman Empire in its prime, and he's the one who led an army of elephants across the Alps. which elephants and mountains don't frickin' mix.
No.
But yeah, so I think he's most well known for crossing the Alps when that was deemed to be like an impossible thing, especially with, war animals in tow.
Cool.
Ching Shi was one of my honorable mentions.
Nice.
And because she is a badass.
Obviously.
Yes. So, I mean, do you all know who Terry Fox is? I'm kidding.
Because
I didn't know that he was only 22 when he died.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So my
Tiny.
next point is, what the hell am I doing with my life?
I did know that because he attended my alma mater,
Wow.
Simon Fraser University. Shout out! And so there's like statues of him everywhere on that campus. Everywhere. Yeah.
wow.
Yes. So yeah, other historical figures, Alexander the Great, those kinds of things. But that's kind of it, essentially.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's really good. Sorry, everyone has all of them, right? You guys have
Yes.
them? Said
Oh,
them
yeah,
all? Really quickly, Bernie Taupin, or Taupin, he's the Elton John's lyricist. That guy, but Rocket Man just came out,
Yeah.
and he was in that movie, so more people, you know what I mean? Like, more people
He
know
was
about him.
represented
I already
in that
forgot
movie.
his name after the movie was over, but like,
Right.
That dude.
he was
Okay.
represented, so it's lesser known that like Elton John didn't write his own lyrics, right? And then I had Billy Mitchell, but that's known in the video game community about this guy who was the best Donkey Kong player
Right,
in
the
the
King
world.
of Kong.
And he was like, that was what he was famous for, and then he cheated. Apparently he cheated this entire time, so he got all his records stripped away from him. And then
How do you cheat?
He was using like this emulator or whatever that you can't use.
You use cheats in the game.
So instead of like playing like the arcade version of like a video game, he was using like this emulated version on like, I don't know. Like
On a computer?
On a computer.
Yeah.
And it was a big...
Oh, so it was like easier?
He ran a copy of the game that he had modified. Essentially.
Yeah.
Scandal.
Yeah.
And the last one I had here was, oh my God, I have so many. Look at this. And this last one I really want to shout out is Percy Levon Julian, who was
Great name.
Yeah, so good. that's the reason why I know it.
That is
No, he's a
it.
research chemist and a pioneer of chemical synthesis of basically steroids. He received more than 130 chemical patents. He was one of the first African Americans to receive a doctorate in chemistry, and he was the first African American chemist inducted into the National Academy of Sciences. So it was just like really cool stuff to like pioneer steroids basically and like save people's lives.
For the culture.
So, guys, we did it!
That was great.
That was
Should we
really
hold
good.
hands?
Yeah, let's hold hands again. Oh yeah.
Reach? Can we reach?
we can reach. Hold on, I'm just gonna move the mic a little bit.
Oh yeah, I could do that too.
Jesus. Okay, we can reach. Yes.
And people at home, if you want to reach to your nearest loved ones, then feel free to do that because you are also interesting people and we love you. But we also love everyone at this table, including Sarah Finn. So Sarah Finn, thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks so much, Tung.
No problem. Usually it's the time of plugs. If you don't have any plugs in life right now, then maybe say what your favorite, I don't know, TV show or book is or play or whatever you're doing. Or just shout out something that you love.
Cool.
Well, yeah, I'm just living life and trying to figure out what this game of life is. And I'm really looking forward to, I'm going to totally botch the name of the Indigenous festival that's coming up.
Mushkamush,
Thank
or
you very much.
Mushkamush.
That's going to be coming
Yeah.
up the NAC, and I'm just looking forward to experiencing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
An
Really
extraordinary
NAC,
thing.
Indigenous Theater.
Yeah.
I need to go to
Yay
the
for-
NEC for more stuff.
Shout
in
out
musicals.
to the
Yeah.
NAC.
Yay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Catherine?
Catherine, thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me
You
again.
have to Skype in.
I know.
This is-
Yeah. Sorry, y'all. I'm moving
When I
back to
come back to Ottawa, I'm like,
Vancouver.
okay, who are my Ottawa people? Leslie just moved away. All right, at least I have the GCTC crowd. Oh,
No,
they're gone.
okay.
Well,
I know. There's not a lot of us.
for Axe,
Jeff.
he's here
Jeff
forever.
is holding down the fort.
Jeff McDied. Jeff McDied.
We all love Jeff here in the pod cavern.
Cult leader.
Catherine, do you have anything to plug?
I mean, everyone should check out the new season at the Great Canadian Theatre Company.
How could
Yes.
Shout out.
Where we are right now.
Prismatic.
Prismatic,
Yeah.
the Prismatic Arts Festival at the same time as Mushkamush.
It's going to be amazing.
a lot of theater. I love it.
A lot of theater happening in this beautiful city. So y'all should check it out.
Love
and
it.
shout out to the GCTC for hosting the Pod
Thank
Cavern
you.
today. Thank you to my colleague Seth.
I'm kissing the walls right now. It's going to be hard to clean that off. Sorry, Catherine.
I'll leave it. It's all good.
Axe, Thank you for being on the cast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You know, you're also very hard to schedule, I've been realizing.
Yeah.
You're busy,
You know,
dude.
every time.
I would like to apologize to Victoria Luloff for my 0% success rate.
Yes.
I think she'll appreciate me throwing
Never-
that in there. I kept bailing. I'm sorry.
You're a busy guy, man.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Hey,
honestly.
listen.
Living life.
What's
Yeah.
plugs? Is anything you're doing or anything you're watching?
I'm watching a lot of things. I'm working a lot.
On some sort of election.
Yeah,
coming
there's an
up
election
or
coming up at
something.
one point or something,
Plug
and I'm kind
the
of
election.
Don't forget to vote. Let's vote.
So
Friendos,
important.
vote. Don't complain at me
Vote.
unless you freaking voted on October 21st.
Here's a story real quick.
Yeah.
Last time there was a vote, my company, I'm being really sassy
shook,
about
yeah.
this.
4
Vote.
years ago, perhaps? Or?
No, there was a different
provincial one.
provincial
Yeah.
election.
Oh, right, yeah.
I was at work and they basically pay for you to go vote if you want to, right?
Yeah, they
it's just
should-
like,
they're
You can go
supposed
vote on
to.
work on company
it's
time.
like
Yeah.
in company time you get to go out and vote. So I was like,
That's
okay,
cool.
obviously I'm gonna
You're
go vote. I was
that's a
gonna go
legal thing.
anyway,
You're supposed to.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody at this 120 place workplace didn't go. They're like, meh,
That's
I'm okay.
that's a weird issue in the West. Voter turnout
What?
is so trash.
I'm just like, why? You're getting paid to vote. You
Yeah.
don't have to be at work.
It's really not
We
that
so take for
hard.
granted.
It's just, anyway,
take it
sorry.
for
Go
granted.
ahead.
Yes. So yeah, I guess I'm plugging the election because I want you to vote. But otherwise, yeah, I'm watching a lot of TV shows. I finished Chernobyl a few days ago, and it was upsetting and fascinating and terrifying, and I loved it. I recently started watching Veep.
Nice.
Such a good
Oh,
show.
such a good show.
Julia, she's brilliant.
Oh my God,
she's so,
so
funny.
brilliant.
Everyone
I didn't
around her
realize-
is funny.
I didn't realize how
Really good.
little she is.
Well, she's
It's
just
she's
amazing.
so little.
Next to that
incredible.
big ass freaking White House worker Jonah,
Jonah.
who's like
Jonah,
6'6". It's hilarious.
They're always like, get
really
out of here,
good
you
show.
oaf. Yeah.
Great. Some good
Their
rec-
use of curse words is just at a different.
Legendary.
It's at a different level.
downright
I love it so
artistic.
much.
It
I'm
really
gonna, I'm
is.
gonna
It's an absolute art form.
devour it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good show so far. What else am I watching? Yeah, no, just trash reality TV. Trying to get like the intellectual shit out of the way eventually.
Right.
Lots of miniseries that I'm trying to check out. I've never seen Band of Brothers, so I'm trying to do that next.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm
Thank
hanging
you,
and
Ax.
working a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for loving the pod cavern and loving
course.
me.
My second
We love
home.
you, Tom.
Just sucking up. to
Second
Ax here.
home with the worst roommate.
Oh, I never do the dishes. So yeah, of course, my name is Tuong once again, and you can check out the Pod Cavern in all of its glory and all the shows we have: the Improv Punch Up, Talking Tongue, Cinema Saves the World. We have other shows coming down the pipeline. I don't have
Exciting.
liberty to tell what that is yet, but we're working with people to try to grow the Pod Cavern even more this year. So hopefully that happens.
Renovations.
Exactly. And the show I'm watching, The Boys. It's really good.
Oh my God,
it's
yes.
really good. It's really good.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
And take care of yourself, everyone out
Yeah,
there. Yeah, we
yeah.
love you.
Stay
You're
interesting.
interesting.
You're an
people.
interesting
Everyone's a little snowflake. Everyone is everyone's the special. That's from the Lego Movie, right?
Yeah, everything is
Everything is awesome.
You was kind, you was
was
smart,
smart.
you was important.
Oh, there you go.
That's good. That's good.
Better.
And thank you again. We'll see you next time.
Bye.